The Eagles have lost 4 of their last 5 at obviously the worst time of the season, with 1 game remaining. That will not be easy at their division rival Giants, even though the Eagles are favored by 5.5 in that game. But the Eagles are obviously in the playoffs. So, Michael Irvin, will they win 1 playoff game at all?
I do believe the Philadelphia Eagles will win a playoff game. We can look at the possibilities of a team going in there like Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to Philadelphia. I would absolutely take Philadelphia to win that game, especially after what I just saw the Saints do to them now. It's certainly on the back end with the Philadelphia Eagles, you've had some holes. And the connection between Baker and Mike Evans has been great with the exception of what they did last week, because New Orleans has always had a pretty good game and a pretty good game plan to stop Mike Evans. It's usually Lattimore, but last week they just doubled him everywhere, and it slowed down that Tampa offense enough. I believe you get a game in Philadelphia with all that they've had to deal with losing to Arizona, right? With losing to Arizona, Philly will rise up, and I do believe they'll win a playoff game. And I need them to win that playoff game just in case they have to go to San Francisco to give me a chance to get a couple shots at San Francisco. Okay. Philly may end up with a win, and then we can knock them off in Dallas in the championship game, too. Yep. I'm just saying, I do think they can win a playoff game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, too. Your Dallas Cowboys are the reason they won't be back in Philly anytime soon. But I think whether they play the Saints or the Bucks, I think they get a win pretty easily. I don't understand what has happened, because personnel-wise, they aren't that much different than they were last season.
Right.
I don't see it. The only thing different, Irv and Skip, are these coordinators. They lost Javon Hargrave, and they replaced him with Jalen Carter. But outside of that, a lot of DeAndre Swift is there, but I don't see this. Offensive line is pretty much the same. The defensive line is pretty much the same. The secondary, you lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who did have 6 interceptions last season. But, Blankenship has been fine. He's been solid. It hasn't been terrible enough for them to be 28th in pass defense. And Darius Slay missed a few games, which is a huge part of what they do, but not enough for them to be 28th in pass defense. And these veterans, you think if they're a young team, they may get, pushed around up front. Maybe they hit a rookie wall, but you still got Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. You still got Hassan Reddick. You still got, all these guys. You're right, and you're not getting the sacks. And so now you're not getting the pressure you were last year. You're not getting the sacks you were. So it's kind of exposing that secondary. You change from side to side and say he's the problem, and you get to Matt Patricia, but then you still give up 35 to the Arizona Cardinals, so that wasn't the answer. And so I have them winning a game. I have them winning against the NFC South, whoever comes out of the NFC South, but I don't have them doing much more than that.
Okay.
And Skip, before you go, Sherm, you guys, this. What they will say to themselves, though, Skip and Sherm, is, okay, this is what we've been waiting for. Now let's turn it up. We've been waiting for the playoffs, because everybody else, they feel we've gotten to a Super Bowl. Everybody else is waiting to playoffs, but now this is the playoff. They'll think that there's a switch that they can flip on and start going better, playing better in the playoffs, but that switch won't happen. But they will win a game.
I don't think they'll win a game, even if it's at Tampa Baker, especially if it's at New Orleans. I don't think they can beat those teams right now. And to me, the beauty of the game you guys played at the highest level, the National Football League, this time of year, it's magical to me, because it gets mystical in that some teams catch fire inexplicably and some teams just lose their way inexplicably. It feels like the Eagles have just lost their way. I've said from the start the defense was way overrated. It's now 29th in points allowed. I don't think you can flip a switch and fix that. It's dropped to 9th in rushing. And so, as Richard said earlier, 2 things you need to take on the road is your defense and your run game in a road playoff game. Well, I don't see it. It's not what it used to be. And I get on paper. That's all I hear about the Eagles. On paper, they're this and they're that. And right now, that defense is not worth the paper its depth chart is printed on. And I hear names, and you throw out all the names that are still there on defense. Names.
Boys.
But I don't see games. I don't see productivity. I don't see flash on my TV screen. Oh, there he is, or there he is. I heard that Kevin Byard was going to cure what ails the secondary. I haven't seen it. I heard that Shaq Leonard, Cowboys could have had him, but the Eagles signed him, and he's going to fix what's wrong with their linebacker core, and I haven't seen it yet. And, Michael, I know you call him AB11, A.J. Brown. I know you got a connection with him. You've had great talks with him. I don't know what's happened, but he just fell off the map over the last 5 games after he went on that tear where he was 125-plus yards for 6 straight games. He and Jalen have just lost their rapport, their mystical sort of connection they used to have. I don't see it. And once you've lost your way, once you've demoted your new defensive coordinator and replaced him with the guy who has never done much outside Belichick, where Belichick was actually calling the defense, I don't see how you're going to flip a switch. It reminds me of what Michael says about 1997 in Dallas, when you turned to prime time to Deion Sanders, is that time. It's over, right? It just feels like it's over for this team because it's an older football team without a lot of young pizzazz except at quarterback. And right now, Jalen's not talented enough just to lift the whole show. He's got to play in rhythm and in his scheme and do what he does best. And right now, it's just not clicking. They have lost their flow. So I don't see him winning a play. I don't think they could beat Tampa at Tampa right now.
You know what's interesting? Because last year it was such an interesting thing to watch that journey. And we looked at Jalen Hurts with just in all, like, man, this is such great improvement, how he's playing, how he's controlling his team, and those things. But he hasn't been totally healthy. And I do believe when you get that team into the playoffs, their mindset goes to like, wow, we got 4 weeks ahead of us and we can put out whatever we have. And they'll find some offense and they'll find a win in that first game. I just don't know how far they can go past that.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Richard.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Go.
Yeah, I just, again, think it's Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon's effect. You have to go back to what Shane Steichen was doing with this offense. When you're trying to win in the National Football League, leave the ego at the door. Look, sometimes you're getting caught in ego and like, man, we got to do it my way, and this is my system. Look, you want to win? Do what worked for you last year. Go back and study those plays. Go back and study putting Jalen Hurts in a position, what got him in rhythm. Because right now it's so predictable. It's so stagnant. It's so easy to read. It's so easy to see what they're trying to do and the formations they're trying to get in and the concepts they're trying to get in. They're running spot concepts. They're running the dice concepts where it's 2 hooks and then a sit over the ball and then swings on the outside. As a defense, when you're that predictable, when you get in these playoff games, those incompletions and back downs are going to start turning into picks and pick sixes and turnovers because that's all they're going to be harping on. They know what you do well. They know what you don't do well. And they're not doing enough. They don't have enough variety right now.
And
I think when you ask about, Skip, you ask about what has happened to Arthur Ron Brown, in the last 5 games, Jalen Hurts has 5 more interceptions. When you start, and that he added on to already a lot of interceptions. So you start saying, oh, those just, I'm going to trust you balls that I used to throw. I'm scared to throw them. I can't keep putting up. I don't want to have a season where I have 20 interceptions back here. So that's kind of what happened also, I believe.
Yeah. Listen, I'm the biggest Jalen Hurts supporter, fan, believer. He's one of the great leaders in the game today and in all of sports. And yet he does it as much with intangibles as tangibles. So his opponent in the Super Bowl was obviously Patrick Mahomes. When Patrick struggles or slumps, Patrick can just overcome it with raw, pure talent. Jalen doesn't have Patrick's overall talent that he can lean back on. He's got to be able to do some things with his legs and have receivers separate that he can hit with his throws, which are very good, but he's not the greatest thrower of the football we've ever seen. So it's like he's up against it because his intangibles won't work right now. He needs more tangibles because they're struggling to the point where they have the single most unstoppable running play we've ever seen, the tush push.
Right.
But it's only for 1 yard. The problem is it gets 1 yard automatically, or 2 or 3, but the defense gives up a 4-yard gain and then a 6-yard gain, and then an 8-yard gain, and then a 12-yard chunk play, and you can't keep up with it. The tush push becomes irrelevant for them because it's not enough. So to me,
but it's just also when my defense is giving up these kinds of comebacks, yards, and points, let's slow the game down.
Yeah.
You know, your guys, slow the game down. Let's work that clock all the way down. So where every time you walk to this line of scrimmage, you're trying to give your defense some time to rest because they're giving up long drives. Slow the game down, man. Get back to running the ball. If they can get back to that, they were such a feared run team. Everything came off it. Then they pay Jalen Hurts. They want to be a feared pass team that can run. You go back to being the feared run team that you pass off of, not trying to be a passing team that can also run.
I got you. All right, in a moment, we're talking Harbaughs, plural. We're talking about which Harbaugh, Jim or John, has had the better career, and I can't wait to talk about this.
No mercy, no mercy.